Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, July 2nd, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We do pride ourselves on using the most cited sources with award-winning journalism. We don't do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, whatever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We simply provide the facts. We do try to watch our language on this show, but let's be honest, words fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, yeah, I guess we might as well address the elephant in the room, because it happened.
I'm Kelly O'Donnell in Washington, where after a marathon 27-hour series of amendment votes, Senate Republicans were able to pass President Trump's legislative agenda, calling in Vice President J.D. Vance to break a 50-50 tie after an all-nighter of arm twisting moved Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska to yes. The massive bill includes some big changes that now have to go back to the House, including an increase in a fund to help rural hospitals handle the bill's sweeping cuts to Medicaid. President Trump and his top Senate allies celebrated their long-fought victory.
In the end, we got the job done, and we're delighted to be able to be partners with President Trump and his agenda, an agenda that is the right of the American people, the one that we voted for last week.
In November, we heard loud and clear, and this is delivering on those promises. As President Trump would say, promises made, promises kept.
The tax cuts were going to expire in December. There had been a $4 trillion tax increase. That's a big deal.
It's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
Notably, 3 Republicans voted against this bill. Senator Susan Collins of Maine is facing a potentially tough reelection next year. That may become tougher now. And North Carolina's Tom Tillis would have been in the same position, except that he opted to retire after coming out against the bill. This afternoon, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer pledged to use this vote as a political cudgel in next year's midterms.
Today's vote will haunt our Republican colleagues for years to come. As the American people see the damage that is done, as hospitals close, as people are laid off, as costs go up, as the debt increases, they will see what our colleagues have done, and they will remember it. And we Democrats will make sure they remember it.
The sweeping legislation now has one more major hurdle, a House vote on final passage, which is expected sometime tomorrow if Republicans believe they have the votes to pass it. Some House conservatives are already signaling their frustrations with the Senate version. Speaker Mike Johnson has zero room for error after barely muscling through the House's original version by one vote. And last night, the Speaker was practically begging the Senate to take it easy on changes to the bill.
We're going to pass this bill one way or the other, and I have prevailed upon my Senate colleagues to please get as close to the House product as possible.
Some careful choreography down the stairs there. Clearly, the political perils of this legislation are top of mind for members of Congress, and polling shows it deeply unpopular.
Yeah, completely unpopular. This big-ass, destructive mess of a bill that, unfortunately, like we know all Republicans do except for 3, which probably will not be there come the midterms next year, vote against it. And again, this was all through reconciliation. The same thing the Democrats did during the Biden administration, to where if they were going to pass things without Republicans, well, then that's how they did it. Republicans just said, okay, then we can do the same thing. And again, when it comes to Republicans in the party line, they toe it, especially you, Senator Lisa Murkowski, because we knew you were going to fold because you folded during the Supreme Court confirmations. You folded. And it's no surprise you actually folded on this because, again, for a lot of people that don't understand this, this is going to harm in the long run. I mean, we have said this many times on this podcast when it comes to this bill. And just to remind everybody, this is what's in that big, beautiful caca bill and why you should be concerned. Again, if the House passes it.
It's gorgeous.
We call it a great, big, beautiful bill because that's what it is.
But to Democrats, an ugly betrayal.
The bill before the Senate is utter poison.
940 pages that make up the foundation of President Trump's agenda. So what's actually in it? Start with tax cuts, a huge piece of this plan. As written, the bill would make the president's signature 2017 cuts permanent.
It's been an amazing experience.
The bill would also let people deduct more of their state and local income taxes for the next 5 years, which Republicans from blue states with higher taxes really wanted. And it would fulfill a Trump campaign promise by implementing no tax on tips, overtime, or car loans. On other issues, the bill boosts spending on immigration enforcement with more money for the border wall and for ICE. It beefs up military spending, including money for space programs and moving the historic Space Shuttle Discovery from blue-leaning Virginia to ruby red Texas.
The shuttle has cleared the tower.
And it calls for funding the so-called Golden Dome, a U.S. air missile defense system. But all those tax cuts and extra spending are expensive. So how's it being paid for?
We're cutting $1.7 trillion in this bill, and you're not going to feel any of it.
Critics say that's not even close to being true, considering the cuts the bill calls for to social safety nets that lower-income Americans rely on, with even some Republicans who voted to move the bill forward concerned.
If we're going to be a working class party, we've got to protect working people. And I just, the Medicaid stuff in here, I think is bad.
New requirements and restrictions for Medicaid could make it harder to earn its benefits, effectively, experts say, kicking people off. A new estimate predicts more than 10 million Americans would lose their health insurance.
We're not talking about living this life of luxury with Medicaid. We are honestly talking about this life and death and how do we provide for our child in our home.
And the bill also makes changes to the SNAP program, or food stamps, to save billions. It gets rid of green energy and environmental credits, too. Democrats sounding the alarm.
I will tell you that this is the most dangerous piece of legislation I've ever seen during my time in Congress.
But many Republicans ready to celebrate.
I think it's going to be a beautiful day for the big, beautiful bill.
What's crazy about this? You see one side saying, this is effing terrible. Republicans are treating it like it's their Obamacare. They're treating it like it's their own ACA law. Oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. For who? Because as the bill reads, the tax cuts that were put back in place when Taco was first run as president, those Taco's tax cuts, try saying that 5 times fast, may be permanent. The tax cuts that all businesses love because it benefits them. The tax cuts that all rich people love because it benefits them. At the same time, the middle and lower classes, where for the rest of us, if you're not making anywhere near 80,000, let's just say an $80,000 a year ceiling. Let's say you're not making anywhere near that. Let's also say you're not making anywhere near 70 or 60 or 50, barely 50. Let's say that. That's the low bar. For everybody else that's not in the not in the 6-figure salaries, you are going to feel it everywhere. Grocery bills. Oh, by the way, which he said he couldn't do, but he sold you on the lie that he could. Oh, about energy. Oh, energy bills are going to go up because he said he could get them down too. See, again, this is why I kept saying the entire time, you believed a con man that told you all these things. And I love how they try to say, well, it's promises saved and promises kept. No, it's not. What promises? Because he sold the American people on a lie. He promised the corporations, the banks, Wall Street, and rich folks, oh, we got you covered. because you're with it. You're in my club. So this big beautiful bill, which a lot of people, you MAGA red hats, you will be the first to complain when it. And again, I only point this out because it's got to go to the House. The Senate passed their version, which again, keep in mind that I said on this podcast a couple episodes ago, the House wanted deeper cuts than what the Senate was going for. For those House Republicans, Mike Johnson, creepy ass Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and what those other Republicans are wanting for, there's a group in there saying, look, this wouldn't get past the committee if these cuts are more. Think about that for a second. Republicans are sitting there saying these cuts don't go deep enough. Cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, food benefits, after-school programs. Again, assistance with folks that are on disability. You are forcing folks that could qualify for Social Security, and you're telling them that the only way they can get their benefits now is that they still have to show they're working. So imagine you in your 50s, 60s, 70s and up still having to work a job to show that you can get benefits that you've been paying into your whole life. But hey, corporations, banks, and the 1%, it's Christmas in July if this bill passes. But I will say this multiple times during this podcast, do not complain if you voted for Trump. Do not complain if you voted for his loyalist that he brought this administration. Do not complain, because you will be the first ones too. All these rural states, I'm sorry, not rural states, red states. All these red states are the biggest proprietors of SNAP, food benefits, of Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. The red states. Y'all will be complaining first when 13 plus million of you are kicked off Medicare or Medicaid or disability. 13 plus million. If that bill goes into effect, if those House Republicans decide that, okay, we can live with this, and they approve it, keep in mind, Republicans have majority in the House. If all Republicans sign on for this, no matter if the Democrats in solidarity vote no, guess what? It can still pass. And then 13 plus million of you are going to feel it. And again, if you thought healthcare in America right now is bad, wait till that bill passes. But like we said, don't complain. You voted for this, and you're taking the rest of us with you. That being said, that's not the dumbest thing that Taco has talked about, because Taco talked about reopening Alcatraz. Of course, Alcatraz, the infamous prison in California, where supposedly nobody escaped, allegedly. However, he decided that no, he wants more place like Alcatraz. And in the Hold My Beer contest of the South, Florida, the undisputed multi-time holder, decided to go, okay, we'll give you Alcatraz with alligators. I wish I could have made this up.
Florida Everglades. Tonight, President Trump says this massive migrant detention camp built in just 8 days has an unusual deterrent to prevent any escapes.
Don't run in a straight line. Look like this.
He calls it Alligator Alcatraz.
It's meant more as a joke, but the more I thought of it, the more I liked it.
With gators clearly visible outside, NBC News getting a first look inside.
The partnership with the state has been great, right?
Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons telling us the goal is to keep detainees here no longer than 2 weeks, where they can appear before a judge and be deported from the camp's existing runway.
How would you respond to critics who think that this is not where immigrants should be housed?
Well, what I would say is that obviously individuals that want to come here to enjoy the American dream should think about returning on their own, so they're not in a detained setting, right?
President Trump was elected pledging to deport the record number of migrants who crossed into the U.S. under President Biden.
I ran on the issue of illegals, and we have to get them out.
According to data reviewed by NBC News, almost half of those currently in ICE custody have neither been convicted of nor charged with a crime.
Is the administration still going after the worst of the worst?
We are.
The administration stresses the priority is violent criminals, but anyone who is here illegally is breaking the law.
Through the course of another law enforcement investigation, we do come across people that are just here illegally. We will no longer turn a blind eye to that.
Still, environmental groups are suing,
Get the hell out of our Everglades.
while Trump supporters are cheering this detention center.
I think it's great. Get the holes out of here.
The Department of Homeland Security says this center will be paid for by FEMA funds the Biden administration previously used to house migrants, including in New York City. Nationwide, ICE's detention space is at 140% capacity. So the president says this center could be a blueprint for other states. Tom?
What's crazy is 8 days. 8 days to build that facility. So I always love when people say nothing can be done in a expedited way. Governor Ron DeSantis, Trump cheerleader number 3 on the ratings, sat there and told Taco, yeah, we can do it in 8 days. And where is Taco and Ice Barbie Department Director of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem at the facility, laughing. Oh, well, we can house our illegals right here. Hell, there's an airstrip right there. We can go ahead and deport them as soon as we get them. They literally created an internment camp with the idea of McDonald's fast fooding, which means that they're not going to get due process, because we know how Taco's administration loves due process. And I mean, when it benefits them. But they don't want the same thing for what they call illegal immigrants, because they're scooping up everybody. At the same time, I can't help that Alligator Alcatraz might as well be called the next internment camp. Now, for all those that, may have either slept through history or maybe too young to remember, but during the World War, for a lot of people that don't know this, between World War II, America did have an internment camp. Listen to the survivors, because how they describe things is scarily similar to what the ICE Gestapo and Ice Barbie and Taco are doing now.
I was 9 years old when December 7th happened and the war started. Everybody was just traumatized. And the next day was Monday, and the thought in my mind was I would have to go to school and face my classmates.
December 7th, 1941. Well, it wasn't a very good feeling. We were driving to church, and as we drove along the boulevard, people standing on the corner would shake their fists at us and yell at us, so we didn't know what was going on. And we turned on the radio, and we learned the bad news. That Pearl Harbor had just been bombed, and we were at war, so that was pretty much of a shock.
I think I was more traumatized and really made very conscious of the fact that I was different, that I was Japanese. I came home from school and the FBI were in our house, searching our house. At the end of the search, they said that my father had to go with them. And so I remember him turning around and saying that he wasn't sure when he was going to be back. The first thing that I can remember is walking, it seemed like in dust. It was just like something that was so foreign to us. And it wasn't like a little bit of dust, but it was like inches of dust. And then we were assigned our barrack.
The Japanese American internment is an important historical moment for us to remember because it reminds us that in times of crisis, we have a tendency to allow racism to take hold of society and allow us to make decisions that in many times are in violation of our civil liberties or civil rights. Unfortunately, over the course of 2020, we saw a rise of anti-Asian rhetoric. What you can see this anti-Asian rhetoric really aligning with is this long-standing trope of Asian Americans being foreigners, being perpetual outsiders. It's a way of really dehumanizing Asian Americans as really being, kind of followers, and we're almost kind of mechanical.
We felt that it was wrong for them to imprison us like that. And so we wanted to demonstrate that they were wrong, that we were loyal citizens. We were just doing a job, we were assigned there, we had to fight, and that's what we did.
Your best friend lived here during camp, and then this is you right here.
Yeah, with the round face. I had to help my mom pack. She had to get rid of everything, furniture and stuff like that. And she was practically giving it away because at that time, nobody would buy it. We felt kind of conscious.
Self-conscious?
Yes, we felt that we didn't belong there or whatever.
I first learned about the internment camps when I was a young boy reading about the history of World War II. As a child, you're always thinking about fairness. And so I thought, gee, that's not fair, that everybody was an American citizen and they hadn't actually done anything wrong other than just be Japanese descent. What we're finding today with some of the recent incidents of violence against Asians just because they're Asians kind of says you just have to be different than some majority of people. I think the lesson is you have to have constant vigilance in our society and our government against those biases and those mechanisms that could allow that to grow and prosper. We have to make sure that that doesn't propagate.
I think fear is the common enemy. And when fear kind of grabs a hold of you, like in our political situation today, it's something we have to really fight against.
And the reason why I bring this up is because it wasn't that long ago. What happened with the internment camps during World War II was not that long ago. And listen to them. The same thing. Japanese Americans, stripped of their rights, moved to internment camps for inspection because, the paranoia was that they were Japanese spies among us. Now, a lot of people are going to be sitting there saying, well, it was Japanese American. It was, it was wartime. But the fear is still there. The paranoia was still the same. And the actions that they took were inhumane. That's not a difference between what happened with Japanese Americans and what's happening right now with those people of color. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, in this whole wrap up of illegal immigrants, I have not seen one white person. I haven't seen a Polish person, haven't seen a Russian, haven't seen a New Zealand person, haven't seen anybody, that wasn't melanin or darker or brown. And I don't mean to say that in racist terms, but let's be honest. What do you mostly see going through these fast food, no process, illegal immigration sweeps done by ICE? Where are they going? To schools to pick up kids graduating, parents of kids who are literally signing up to serve in the armed forces, folks simply going to work, folks going to Home Depot to pick up work, folks just scared to come out of their homes because you have the Gestapo or ICE, and then you have folks pretending to be ICE. That's a new thing where, certain people out there feel so emboldened to pretend that they're law enforcement to basically kidnap or harm immigrants. So again, the fear is the same. The tactics are the same. And this Alligator Alcatraz is the new internment camp. And the fact that you have Taco and his group of idiots he and chuckling up about it and saying this is great should be an alarm to everyone. But again, a lot of you people voted for this red hat idiot, and now we're all going to suffer for it. Switching gears for a second, I did want to talk about the New York City primary, to which, if you have been under a rock, Zohan Mamdani did win the primary, which means that he will be up for the race come November. Current mayor and turncoat and latest taco ass kisser, Mayor Eric Adams, went to the always friendly, sometimes biased news station, pretending to be a news station, Fox News, to let everybody know his opinion about Mr. Mamdani.
Eric Adams, who is running, even though he got elected as a Democrat, he's running for re-election as an independent. For your first response to that stunning news, Governor Cuomo is not going to be Mayor Cuomo.
Well, first, it's not stunning to me, and I was very clear. And I'm still a Democrat. I'm running on an independent line, which the policy in the law allows me to do. You had one candidate that was running away from his record. You had another candidate with no record, and you have Eric Adams with a record. I delivered for this city, and we're not going backwards. We're not going into a place where we want to defund the police, don't invest in jobs, where we believe we can make broken promises that we can't deliver. I delivered on every promise I gave to
Mr. Mayor, it's not just defund the police. This candidate, Democratic Socialist, he wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for childcare, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
He's a snake oil salesman.
Mm-hmm.
He will say and do anything to get elected. Think about this for a moment. He wants to raise 1%. He wants to raise tax on 1% of New Yorkers' high-income earners. As the mayor, you don't have the authority to do that. You know who has the authority to do that? An assemblyman, which he is. He wants to do free buses. He could have done it at assemblyman. He doesn't understand the power of government and how you must making sure you improve your economy, raise the standard of living. And this is what we've done in the city. And I'm looking forward to being on the campaign trail.
So I got to stop it there because, it's Fox News and I'm not trying to, have everybody lose their minds over it. Eric Adams can't talk. He was the one that was completely okay with the express toll system that they put in place, to where New Yorkers basically had to pay to go to work, pay to go home, pay to go anywhere in the city, which again is effing ridiculous. He was also the one, keep in mind, Eric Adams was facing investigations of possible corruption and collusion charges with his election. Then he went crying to Taco. Taco then instructed his lapdog, Pam Bondi, to turn around and say, oh, the Department of Justice is now dropping its investigation into Mayor Eric Adams. Crazy that, he kissed Trump's ass and all of a sudden charges go. All of a sudden those charges allude these allegations of corruption and campaign fund misuse and just disappear. But he has the nerve to talk about, he says to Mr. Mamdani, why? I'm calling him a snake oil salesman because he wants free buses. He wants free childcare. He wants city-run grocery stores. He wants to help the people. But he also doesn't believe in billionaires, and he wants to tax them. He's a socialist. And again, it's always funny where they always find something on Fox News. I'm surprised they found a brother. Well, don't really call him a brother. If you went to Fox News, you're like Candace Owens to me. But anyway, the fact that he tried to make it seem like who would vote for this? Regular people. People who don't have trust funds, who don't have millions of dollars, who are not financially secure as we would like to be. But all those things that Mamdani wants to do, I'm all for. Because you know what? You know what's so funny about people when they hear socialists, they think communists. Not realizing we have socialist programs. Medicare is a socialist program. Medicaid is a socialist program. SNAP food benefits is a socialist program. Prescription assistance is a socialist program. School luncheons, education, socialist programs. The fact that regardless if you have insurance or not, that you can be seen at a hospital. Socialism. It is amazing to me that for all their talk about, he's a socialist because he wants to do all these things. Yet the only people that are complaining are those who are well off. And that alone should tell you everything. But hey, don't believe me? Hear it from the most recent winner of the New York primary himself.
Your success, do you think it was your message? Do you think that voters were voting against Andrew Cuomo? A little bit of both. How do you see it?
I think ultimately it was the focus on the fact that we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. It's also the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And yet 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. And the rest are seemingly trapped in a state of anxiety. And what we've seen is that this is a city that needs to be affordable for the people who build it every day. Our focus was on exactly that. And by keeping that focus on an economic agenda, we showed New Yorkers that this could be more than just a museum of what once was. It could be a living, breathing testament to possibility.
Well, let me ask you about what I was just discussing with Senator Chris Murphy. The fact that you have Leader Schumer, Leaders Hakeem Jeffrey, who wrote very nice things about your victory, said you'd won a very strong campaign, have not endorsed you. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed you. Do you think the Democratic establishment is afraid of you?
I think that people are catching up to this election. This is an election that went against so much of the analysis that had been told about our party and where we needed to head to. And ultimately, what we're showing is that by putting working people first, by returning to the roots of the Democratic Party, we actually have a path out of this moment where we're facing authoritarianism in Washington, D.C.
Well, let's talk about your policies, your vision for this city. Here are some of the things you've proposed: free buses, rent-stabilized housing, a $30 minimum wage, creation of city-owned grocery stores. It's a very long list of proposals. So let me ask you, if you were to be elected the next mayor of New York, what would your day one priority be?
The first thing is living up to these promises that I've made, because I've made them because I intend to keep them. And in a city of about 8.5 million people, close to 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized housing. The mayor, through a board called the Rent Guidelines Board, sets whether or not those rents increase or stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times. This one, led by Mayor Adams, increased it by 9%. So the first thing that I would do is start to constitute a board that votes in reflection of reality. And the reality I'm speaking of is that the median household income of those tenants is $60,000 a year. The landlords of those units have seen their profits increase by 12%. It's time for relief for working class New Yorkers.
Okay, well, of course, the big question is, how are you going to pay for it? You've proposed increasing taxes on wealthier New Yorkers. The Democratic governor, though, of your state, Kathy Hochul, says she's not going to support increasing taxes in order to get it across the finish line. I want to let you take a listen to a little bit of what she had to say recently and respond on the other side. Here she is.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting middle class
Even on the
taxes.
wealthy.
I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign. And ultimately, we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional, is something that has broad support and will continue to increase that support over the next few months and years.
So you think you're going to be able to twist Governor Hochul's arm and get her to support raising taxes? I mean, what about the fact that she says she's concerned New Yorkers might leave? They might go to Florida.
I think it's time for a leadership that doesn't twist arms, but rather builds partnership. And I'm looking forward to having that with the governor, because ultimately my policies, my vision, it's driven by an assessment of what's actually happening. The Fiscal Policy Institute found that the top 1% of New Yorkers leave at 1/4 the rate of other income groups. And when they do leave, it's actually to other states considered high tax, New Jersey, California. So it's not fiscal policy, it's quality of life. And ultimately, the reason I want to increase these taxes on the top 1%, the most profitable corporations, is to increase quality of life for everyone, including those who are going to be taxed.
Here's how the Washington Post editorial board wrote about your proposals. They say a massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. His rent freeze would reduce the housing supply and decrease its quality. Cutting bus fares would leave a transit funding hole that, unless somehow filled, would erode service. Meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer options, poor service, and shortages. Mr. Mamdani, are your proposals going to hurt the very people you're trying to help?
Not at all. There have been many in editorial board who have had concerns, and what we've shown is that more than 400,000 New Yorkers are excited about this vision. And the reason they're excited about it is one that is in line with the scale of the crisis in this city. I mean, we are talking about our tax base growing smaller and smaller each day, with New Yorkers leaving to New Jersey, to Pennsylvania, to Connecticut. If we do not meet this moment, we will lose this city. And our proposals are ones that are thought out. They are ones that are also clearly going to be funded by these revenue streams. I'll give you an example. When we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas. We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And finally, it costs less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices, any guarantee of collective bargaining agreements, or that they accept SNAP or WIC.
Well, you take me to my next question about grocery stores. Some executives, including one of the top.
So I gotta leave it there because, again, it runs a little long. But the thing I'm getting at here, the man just explained how he wants to do things. But you know what a lot of people are going to hear? A lot of people are going to hear, socialist! How will he get these to pay? And it's amazing. Whenever a progressive measure is put out, who complains the most? Those who make the most. Those who make the most are always the ones that complain. And here's the crazy part. They somehow convince others who make less to turn around and squawk right along with them. And I always say this best. If your income is not in the 6-figure realm, why are you defending those with 6, 7 higher incomes than you? Why are you defending them? They're fine. Here's the crazy part about rich people. And I know this is going to seem strange. This is going to seem weird, but I got to say it. You know the crazy thing about rich people? Rich people can pay taxes and still be rich. It's a shocking thing, isn't it? Rich people can pay more and still be rich. At least now, because, well, Trump's tax cuts are still in. But that's the thing. He wants more things for those that have less, and has shown that, yes, we will be pressuring the rich. Well, they can go anywhere else. Well, again, to a certain extent, this is nothing new. Rich people have went from California to Texas to Tennessee to New York to Florida. They always do that because they're dodging taxes. They're dodging tax rates. They love to come, especially in the South. Tennessee loves multi-billion-dollar companies because they've given multiple tax breaks to them all the freaking time. So that's not surprising. But for what Madani wants to do, again, I'm all for it. There needs to be more progressive measures. And again, the same thing as it works in New York is the same thing that can work in the South. And the problem is you have Eric Adams, who at this point kissed Taco's ass and now is his errand boy, goes on Fox News. And of course, Fox News hates anything socialism, but I'll get to Fox News in a minute because Gavin Newsom is doing something that Dominion should have done. But anyway, we'll get to that momentarily. But you're probably wondering about Taco, and of course, Taco did have an opinion about the latest NYC primary candidate, and has decided to sit there and say, well, if he's not going to work with us, well, we're going to arrest him. Yeah, he said that.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
because that's what we should send him.
Yeah, well, like sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they moved to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more in the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. We're going to look at everything, and ideally, he's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist. I've always said we will not have socialism in this country. In the speeches, I said, well, what? They skipped socialism, and you got a lot of them like that. And you see AOC, she's out there with her, bad IQ.
And there he goes into his usual old man that watches Fox News way too many times rant. It's amazing to me that he turns around and says he calls Madani a communist. Does he not? All I can sit there and say is, folks, a communist is way worse because Cuba under Fidel Castro was communism. Way worse. If he's want to do more for the people and he's taxing the rich to pay their fair share, that's not communism. If he wants free things like buses and grocery run stores to help combat the food issues, because there are plenty of food deserts practically everywhere, it's socialism. But now Taco's going to talk about, well, if he's a communist, we're going to arrest him. No, you're not, because that's what a dictator does. See, Taco believes he's a dictator; he can do whatever he wants, and I know, and he feels that way. But basically, not only because he's been enamored by the Supreme Court, which we'll show momentarily, but at the same time, he hasn't been checked, except when he almost, had that ear issue, which I still say is, bullshit. But it is amazing to me that he's emboldened and he's empowered. And part of that problem is a conservative-leaning Supreme Court that just recently, beginning of last week, start of this week, may have given Taco his best news yet. And it's scary that they're choosing a deranged idiot over the Constitution.
We continue our breaking news coverage of the flurry of decisions issued by the Supreme Court as it wraps its 2024 to 2025 session. Today, a major ruling on President Trump's use of an executive order to end birthright citizenship in the U.S. We begin there with CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Camilo, thank you for joining us today. Tell us about some of the real-world ramifications of today's rulings.
Good morning, Mugo. Well, this could very well prove to be a major legal victory for the Trump administration's aggressive efforts to change longstanding federal policy, including on immigration, because Mugo, because we have discussed these rulings on multiple occasions, nationwide injunctions have become a major legal obstacle for the administration's immigration agenda, with judges across the country blocking many of its efforts, including obviously on its attempt to deny birthright citizenship to the children of immigrants who are here illegally and also on temporary visas. But this ruling, which of course curbs, curtails, and limits these nationwide injunctions by federal judges, could really pave the way for the administration, Mugo, to follow through on many of these policy changes. The caveat, of course, in this specific case is that the legal question about whether or not birthright citizenship and the administration's attempt to upend the long-standing interpretation of that is legal and constitutional is still to be decided and will continue to be litigated in federal courts across the country. That is not a settled question, but obviously now the Department of Homeland Security, state and other federal agencies can actually implement and at least release the guidance on how they would enforce this order across the country. Mugo.
Of course. And we want to take another live look at the White House right now because we are waiting to hear from President Donald Trump after this ruling from the Supreme Court. As soon as that news conference begins, we'll bring it to you right here on CBS News 24/7. Let's get back to you, Camilo, because.
So what's crazy about this is, folks, that they're pretty much saying they, in so many words, and I say this in so many words, they're basically telling Taco, go nuts. They're telling Taco, go nuts. They're telling Taco, hey, you can possibly remove birthright citizenship from people who were born here, that their parents, and again, this is the part that I'm getting at here, folks, that people who were born here, keep in mind what I said, people born in the United States, which, by the way, if you are born in the United States, you are a natural citizen. Now, if you have immigrant parents, Taco may be emboldened to sit there and say, well, I want to be able to strip your citizenship from you. If that is not a dictator thing to do, and again, this goes back, guys, to a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. Amy Coney Barrett was the deciding factor in this ruling. You know, the woman that we were worried about that was basically ramrodded in after Ruth Bader Ginsburg unfortunately passed away. And before her body was cold in the ground, they shoved Amy Coney Barrett in as soon as humanly possible because they wanted a conservative in that seat right next to Brett Kavanaugh to tip the scale. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how you have a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. And that set Taco up because that emboldened Taco. So now all Taco says is, well, we'll ask the Supreme Court to look into it. Have you noticed that? Whenever it comes to the legal ramifications of things, well, we'll ask the Supreme Court to take a look. And yet, nobody bats an eye. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody says anything. It's just like, my God. And like I said, the dangers of a conservative Supreme Court in this case is that they will turn around and there's always the fear. There's always the fear they could turn around and rule for Taco and everything. Why? More conservative voices, which is why we all should be concerned. But at the same time, I've been saying for the longest time the Supreme Court needs to adjust the way they do things. They do need term limits. You know, the lifetime job placement ain't working. Not anymore. There needs to be terms. I think that there should be a new Supreme Court for every new presidential term. I do think the Supreme Court should only hear things once they have went through the lower courts. I think the process needs to be revamped because everything Taco talks about or wants to get talked about gets fast food speed to the Supreme Court. And nobody seems to bat an eye to it. But again, this is what I talk about. But you know what else I talk about a lot of this podcast? You MAGA red hat people, specifically you Cubans and Latinos. I love y'all, but this next piece is basically ripping what you sow. You guys decide to vote in mass numbers for Taco, And how did Taco reward you? By sending you back.
A wave of disappointment. One of President Donald Trump's most loyal voting blocs, Cuban and Venezuelan immigrants. Now speaking out in Miami, a Republican stronghold, as the recent wave of deportations hits home and the Trump administration moved to end temporary legal status, or TPS, for more than 500,000 people who arrived during the Biden administration. Elena Conde says she came here from Cuba on humanitarian parole in 2023. Her husband, Ariel Lara, crossed the border with Mexico twice, once in 2019 when he was detained and deported, and then again in 2022. 6 weeks ago, he was taken into custody at his residency hearing.
So he was given an appointment to go to ICE. You told him before he left for that appointment, you don't have anything to worry about. You haven't done anything.
Instead, he was transferred to Texas, where we spoke to him from his detention center.
Ariel, ¿qué piensas sobre lo que está pasando ahora en este país, en este momento con respecto a las deportaciones? How do you feel about everything that's happening right now in this country with the deportations? You don't understand how this could happen. ¿Qué pensaba que iba a pasar cuando ganó Trump? What did you think was going to happen when Trump won? You're saying you believed the president when he said he was going to deport criminals.
Now, Elena is left behind with her daughter, 7-month-old son, and Ariel's 70-year-old grandmother, who has been a U.S. citizen for years. Together, facing a reality they never imagined.
Toda mi familia votó por Trump. Your whole family voted for Trump. Lo apoyaba a Trump durante su campaña. Did you support him? Yo estoy fuera. You're outside of it. You can't vote. Pero te sientes decepcionada. Do you feel disappointed, deceived, engañada? Me siento mal porque sé que ellos creían en él. You feel bad because the rest of them believed in him.
It's a concern Democratic strategists are capitalizing on, with billboards like these calling Republican lawmakers traitors. Still, here in Florida, Trump won almost 70% of the Cuban-American vote in 2024, along with 61% of Doral, home to the largest Venezuelan-American population in the U.S.
They used us.
Adelis Ferro is the co-founder and executive director of the Venezuelan-American Caucus.
How is the Venezuelan community feeling right now, especially in the context of these deportations?
Desperate, terrified. There are people with mental health issues. There are people with panic attacks, anxiety attacks. They rather to die than go back to Venezuela, and then
People
have
are
to
talking
stop.
about taking their lives.
I have those messages
Because the situation
because
here
of the situation. They rather
so
to
bad with
take their own
deportation.
lives, yes, than go back to Venezuela.
The ripple effects affecting families and businesses. This Venezuelan business owner, who asked us not to use his name to protect his business and fellow owners, said the political instability has led to a 20% drop in revenue.
It's affected your clients as well as the people who work here.
Sí, claro. Entiendo que hay mucha gente que ha invertido, tiene negocio.
A lot of people have already invested in businesses here and they've stopped because they just don't know what the future brings.
Still, experts say the current turmoil may not hurt the Republican Party.
All this stuff done in the first 200 days of the administration. They have a long road ahead before the midterms.
Do you think that Trump will pay a political price?
I'm not sure that Trump or the Republican Party as an institution is going to suffer a great deal unless the Democrats can muster an opposition that is a compelling vision as to how things could be done differently.
You know what I want to say to this? What I want to say to this is you got what you voted for. It is amazing when they say, oh, they used us. Oh, they did this. I said, no. Because this man had you believe, and you guys were out there. That one bit about Latinos for Trump and the whole soundbite gets used quite a lot. Even more so. This man told you what he was about. You still voted for him. Well, I thought he was talking about all the illegals. This is why I say a lot of those folks that voted for Taco don't see themselves as exactly the type of person Taco would kick out. That's what I'm saying. It's the exact type of person Taco would kick out. A lot of them see themselves, and I'm just going to be honest with you, a lot of them see themselves exactly like a napkin. Oh, well, we're not associated with them. Because why? Because you're here? Because you have a business? Because of all these things? In Taco's eyes, you are no different. And so he told you exactly what he was going to do. And you ate it up. You believed it. So why do I feel bad for you? Because I don't. I don't feel bad for you. Because you got exactly what you voted for. And it's amazing now. It's like, oh, well, this is injustice. No, this is your reaping of what you sow. So don't feel bad for you. Move right along, guys. Another day, another strike, and this one in Philadelphia. And it's amazing how each of these strikes have the same things in common.
Breaking news now out of Philadelphia. The city's largest workers' union officially on strike. Rhiannon Alley has the details, what it means for the city. Good morning, Rhiannon.
Good morning to you, George. This could be a smelly situation for the city of Philadelphia because until a deal is made, this strike will impact several services around the city, including trash pickup. The city offered a deal late last night, but the largest union representing the 9,000 city workers did not accept it. So the workers want an 8% increase for each year of the 4-year deal. The city offered 7% over 3 years, which averages out to just over 2% per year. So these two sides are pretty far apart in what they want. Services provided by the union include everything from 911 dispatch to street repairs and that trash pickup I mentioned, and more than that. In the meantime, the city has temporarily added drop-off locations around the city where the residents can bring their trash. And the mayor said they will continue working on a compromise. But the good news is the July 4th festivities will continue on as planned, guys.
Yeah, because, the July 4th festivities still have to happen. Although thousands of Philadelphia city workers, are having issues, paying their bills, keeping roofs over their heads, food on their table, and things of that nature, caring for children. But hey, the 4th of July celebration is still going to work just fine. And people wonder why folks go on strike. It's always the same thing. It is amazing to me that with every strike we cover on this podcast, it's always the same. And what I mean by that is, it's always the same as in just paying people. People are tired of breaking themselves for pennies, for poverty wages. And it never ceases to amaze me that the simple answer is pay people more. Because the money's there. You just choose not to spend it or choose to hoard it for other things. But we will follow that. I just thought it was crazy that they said, oh, well, the strike's going on, but don't worry, the 4th of July celebrations will still happen. I'm sorry. I'm more of a Juneteenth person. 4th of July, last time I checked, people were still enslaved around July 4th. So I'm sorry. It doesn't have the same bearing for me as it would for somebody else. Sorry, not really sorry, and I won't apologize. Move right along. Taco does understand that his immigration policies might be a little bit rough on his constituents, mostly his business owners, the farmers and things, farmers, hotel owners. And what he wants to do is think about giving them a pass. How much you want to bet he's trying to figure out his way of advertising a Trump immigration pass? Yes, that might not be the working title, but it's exactly what he's thinking about doing.
Meanwhile, another possible shift in Trump's immigration crackdown. This time, he is suggesting what he calls a temporary pass. It could protect farm workers and hotel workers from deportation. Here's what he told Fox News about the whole thing yesterday.
When we go into a farm and we take away people that have been working there for 15 and 20 years who are good, who possibly came in incorrectly, and what we're going to do is we're going to do something for farmers where we can let the farmer sort of be in charge. The farmer knows he's not going to hire a murderer. So we're working on it right now. We're going to work it so that some kind of a temporary pass where people pay taxes, where the farmer can have a little control.
Now, about the specifics, let's go to NBC News Senior Homeland Security Analyst Julia Ainsley.
Hey, Gotti. So this comments from Trump, again, really kind of riling the immigration community, especially anyone who wants to track which direction this president is going in. On one hand, you have arrests continuing in LA with incredibly militarized tactics. People, especially people from Customs and Border Protection, arriving in Home Depot parking lots with masks on. And then you have Trump finding the softer side when it comes to the employees of hotels and the agriculture sector. We understand that also applies to people who work in meatpacking plants or fisheries, really anybody in hospitality or anything having to do with food. This started about a couple weeks ago when Trump first posted on Truth Social that he was hearing from the CEOs and the business leaders in those communities that the immigration raids were actually hurting their work. And he said something has to change. ICE followed up with a memo saying that they should no longer do workplace raids at those locations, but that the employees, as long as they were at home in their communities, were basically fair game for ICE to go pick up. A few days later, they did an about face saying that that guidance no longer applied and they should not listen to that guidance. Really, what this is Trump again coming back, trying to please the business sector while also wanting to appear very tough on immigration. Of course, that's one of his number one campaign issues. And this is a split that we've seen within the Republican Party that predates Trump. This idea that the Republican Party wants to be very hardlined on immigration, but also sympathetic to the concerns of business leaders. This is exactly where Trump finds himself now, because it depends on whether he's hearing concerns from business leaders, whether he's watching something on TV about people who work in hotels and otherwise, and whether or not he's listening to the fact that maybe the immigration numbers aren't as high as he'd like them to be. He recently said he wanted 1 million people to be deported in a year. Of course, in order to do that, that net would have to be spread much wider, and it would include workplace raids. That's one of the easiest places for ICE to target a large number of people in a really small and short area and short amount of time. So in this case, Trump is conflicted, and at least the guidance for now seems conflicted. Exactly what will happen, whether or not these temporary visas might come through for those workers, remains to be seen. I reached out to DHS and USCIS, which handles visas, for comment. They said to go back to the White House, which means this is clearly still sitting in Trump's purview, perhaps on his desk or in his mind, but it's an idea he has that has not yet been actualized with some kind of form or some kind of visa that might be coming out from the Department of Homeland Security. So it's something to pay attention to, but as we said, we've seen this before.
Oh yeah, we've seen this before. And do not be surprised if Taco decides to come out with, hey guys, so you have workers that are illegal, but you have a farm or hotel or a golf resort to where my award-winning golf tournaments will be held at. Would you like a Trump pass? Yes, Trump Gold immigration passes. Be sure to actually sign up for those. That'll be about $5,000 to $10,000 a pop. How much do you need workers? Well, how much do you need them to not have ICE knocking down your door? Trump immigration passes. Trust me, something stupid as that will come along. Why? Because again, Taco has a problem, because he rounded up, as we said earlier in this podcast, he rounded up folks from Home Depot, from schools, from farms, from regular off jobs. And these are the jobs that Americans don't want to do. I love to say, well, they're taking our jobs. So you'll be the pickers in the farms. You'll be the ones folding the beds in hotels. You'll be the ones cooking cooking meals in the service industry. You'll be doing all the jobs that you Americans, and I say you African Americans, mostly white people, will never do or won't do. And yet these people have come in, thrived, even had their own businesses started, bought homes and cars, and did the jobs you do not want to do. But because Taco and his ICE Gestapo has done such a crazy job of rounding up folks, that business owners are now complaining. Well, I can't really run a hotel if I don't have staff. I can't, I'm going to lose crops every day because those immigrants work harder than regular Americans do. I'm going to go complain to Trump. Yes, it's the first term for Taco all over again. Because remember, those farmers came crying to Taco. Taco gave him a bailout. Well, white farmers, because he didn't give the same bailout to black farmers. So I'm not surprised that Taco is going to now talk about, oh, well, we're going to probably float the idea of a green card for workers, but guarantee he's going to put his name on it. Guarantee it's going to be gold, and guarantee he's going to sound like gets the problem. He's going to sound like gets the answer to a problem that he created but mysteriously forgot about. Mark my words. Mark my words. Speaking of things that are mark my words, Taco talked about everything being weaponized against him when he was president. At the same time, he was facing multiple charges, although he's still a convicted felon, 43 counts. He's still dealing with some court cases, but because the Department of Justice, mainly his lapdog, that gutless heifer Pam Bondi, will not be pursuing him because it is the opinion of the Department of Justice not to indict a sitting president because, again, she's a loyalist. That being said, she's also going after the prosecutors for the January 6th terrorists, as in letting them go.
We want to begin with some serious news in the headlines that we check at the top of this half hour. Multiple sources tell NBC News that the Department of Justice has fired at least 3 federal prosecutors who worked on cases against the January 6th rioters. A copy of one of those dismissal letters was seen by NBC News. It was signed by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. No reason for the removal was given in the letter. The Department of Justice declined to comment. The DOJ had previously fired January 6th prosecutors who were in a probationary period in new positions or as new hires.
No, she let them go because they prosecuted domestic terrorists. Because Taco, again, pardoned almost every January 6th terrorist. And to punish those that did prosecute them, Pam Bondi decided to let them go. It's just BS on how they want to dress this up and say, well, they were temporary or they were in a short capacity. No, Pam Bondi took her lapdog orders, and Taco wanted everybody involved with the January 6th terrorist groups, as far as the people who prosecuted them, not to be associated with his Department of Justice. So I find it funny that Trump talked about weaponized FBI, weaponized DOJ against him, and he's doing the exact thing he complained about. The exact thing. He has weaponized the Supreme Court. He has weaponized the DOJ. He has weaponized the FBI. He has weaponized the Department of Homeland Security. He has weaponized ICE because they're all working for him, not the government. Hypocrite much? That's all I'm saying. But anyway, one of our last two stories that we're going to cover today, guys. Again, I get back to California governor and probably potential 2028 candidate Gavin Newsom. Governor Gavin Newsom has done something that should have been done, although I still blame Dominion for this, for selling for Fox News. The governor is suing Fox News for not telling the truth. We all knew Fox News was full of shit, but now, thankfully, I hope he takes their ass to court. I hope it's a court case, honestly.
Newsom is taking aim at Fox News. The Democratic lawmaker is suing the channel for defamation to the tune of $787 million. The suit was filed earlier today in Delaware, where Fox News is incorporated. Newsom took to X to make that announcement, posting in part, "No more lies." NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal joins us now. So Camila, what can you tell us about this lawsuit, and what have we heard from Fox News?
Hey, St. Clay. So first, Governor Gavin Newsom claiming that Fox News host Jesse Waters lied when he called him a liar when they were talking about this phone call between the president and Governor Gavin Newsom. This is after the National Guard and the Marines were activated here in LA during those protests. And so this was also already disputed on TV and between the two of them on social media. But now Governor Gavin Newsom taking these threats really to court. Here's what he said in that statement. He said, if Fox News wants to lie to the American people on Donald Trump's behalf, it should face consequences, just like it did in the Dominion case. I believe the American people should be able to trust the information they receive from a major news outlet. Until Fox is willing to be truthful, I will keep fighting against the propaganda machine. Now, Fox News really kind of dismissing these claims from Governor Gavin Newsom. They also released a statement saying this: Governor Newsom's transparent publicity stunt is frivolous and designed to chill free speech critical of him. We will defend this case vigorously and look forward to it being dismissed. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom, he asked for an apology, an on-air apology, and a retraction. It's unlikely that that is going to happen given the stance that Fox News has taken on this lawsuit. We'll have to wait and see what a judge decides. But again, this back and forth has already been very public, and now it'll be in the hands of a judge.
So what's crazy about, Fox News, because they're not a news station, even though in the Dominion lawsuit, they claimed they were not a news station. They claimed that they were an entertainment network. It's there and legal if you want to look at it. But it's amazing that when Dominion brought their lawsuit post the election to where Taco had lost and Biden had won, they said the same thing to Dominion. Because keep in mind, Dominion was basically the voting system, voting machines that were used in that election, and Fox News and its correspondents couldn't stop talking about it. Oh, well, Dominion, they have faulty voting machines. They have faulty voting machines. They kept saying it all the doggone time. So what did Dominion do? They sued. And Fox News was like, oh, well, we'll defend this in court. It almost went to court. Why? Because Dominion was like, cool, we'll go to court. And we will subpoena every one of your anchor people. We will submit every one of your anchors. We will submit from Sean Hannity to Laura Ingraham to Fox and Friends. Everybody was about to testify in court. It was about to be the greatest. It was about to be the greatest time that you ever want to watch a court case, to see Fox News in court defending themselves. What happened? Fox News settled. Fox News and Dominion settled. And I'm forever mad at Dominion for that, because Dominion could have done the world a favor. They could have sat there and exposed the greatest propaganda machine this side of the U.S. They could have. But now Governor Gavin Newsom wants to do the same, saying Fox News lies, which they have been caught in multiple lies. At the same time, Fox News again, well, we'll defend ourselves, or we'll see us dismissed. It's funny, you said the same thing about Dominion, and you almost went to trial. Governor Gavin Newsom, if you are able to get this to go to trial, please let it go to trial. Please don't settle. Let it go to trial, and let us put Fox News out there for the world to see. It will be great. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. The last thing I got, guys, before we get to our feel-good news segment is, that Taco is sitting there saying that Israel has agreed to a proposal for a 2-month ceasefire in its war with Hamas. That being said, keep in mind, this is coming from Taco. Israel as well as Hamas has not commented on this at all. And that's what's so crazy about this. And I want to point this out because keep in mind, this whole mess was started by the U.S. welfare queen, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because he wanted to go after Hamas for Palestine, because they wanted the area in Gaza. They wanted the space in Gaza. So at the same time, that started with the Gaza Strip. This is also the same prime minister that started a war, that started a fire with Iran. Iran retaliated. And now you're going to tell us that Taco, being so-called the great negotiator, is going to sit there and tell us that there's a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, and neither Israel nor Hamas has commented on it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I keep saying all the time, you cannot trust Taco when it comes to anything. Why? He lies his ass off. And this may or may not be true. But I've always said, in the world of journalism, whenever we report something, if one side is talking and one side is not, then start sniffing. There's some BS somewhere. But that being said, we are going to move on to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes making you faith in humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. We will leave you guys out some good positive vibes, good feel-good stories to make you think that, there's still a little bit of good humanity left. And hopefully this next story will do that about really a young man, or I should say young men who, again, are being entrepreneurs at a very young age.
How about a little inspiration to go with that coffee this morning? This next story is about students beating the odds at a basketball-focused high school in the Bronx where they are making much more than hoop dreams come true. The students of the Earl Monroe New Renaissance Basketball School mean business.
We've learned real entrepreneurial skills. This is our path to success.
At this unique Bronx-based charter school, basketball is used as a vehicle for learning.
It's a specialized school for basketball, but not for the playing of the game at all. So in addition to the core curriculum, these high school students end up majoring in one of the 16 professions off the court: nutrition, physical rehab, design, business law, finance, etc. They all grow up in the Bronx. It's one of the poorest congressional districts in the country where they come from. When they entered school, the average literacy level of the ninth graders only, fourth grade. It was an eye-opening disaster.
And now, after 4 years of hard work in an elective business class, a group of students launching their own clothing brand, Eventually.
They created their own business brick by brick. We talked about it for months. We will manufacture, design hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants.
There's no test or grade. All of this is coming from the heart. We have a marketing team, a pitch team. We all took what we excel best at, and we kind of came together.
Before I joined the class, I felt really lost. This business just opened up a different world for me. It boosts my confidence. It boosts my leadership skills. We were able to build something so beautiful. It's honestly really emotional because I never thought that the idea that I would come up with would reach to this type of level.
The students' dedication caught the attention of global apparel company Centric, leading to a partnership that gave them a front row seat to the entire manufacturing process.
Their maturity, their professionalism, their passion, their work ethic, and the respect as well. These kids been through a lot, and to see them all come together to root for each other and to see them become one big team, that was very inspiring.
The name Eventually and the brand's message came straight from the students.
I wanted something that brings hope, that shows relentlessness, no matter what you're doing, you can achieve that goal. And eventually just came up because eventually you're gonna reach your goal.
And the color orange, another meaningful choice.
This stands for anti-gun violence. A lot of us have come from troubled neighborhoods where our friends, family, loved ones have been affected by gun violence.
I've dealt with gun violence, unfortunately, in my life with my uncle who passed away. To see a school take pride in representing anti-gun violence touched me.
What we're hoping to accomplish is to give light to those type of things because those things shouldn't go over lightly. My hope for the brand is to leave an impact on the world and our community that no matter where you are, where you come from, you can do it and don't let nobody shoot you down because when you have a goal in mind and you're driven and you're determined, nothing can stop you. We all start from somewhere.
During their first photo shoot, an encouraging surprise, seeing a staff member from their school wearing their design.
To see someone wear it is very cool to me. It's okay. It's kind of the start. One day I'll see one person in the street wearing it. One day, hopefully I'll see hundreds or thousands or millions of people wearing it.
They've all got it. Something within each and every one of them that's magnificent. Can we reach it?
I love it. Can we reach it? Eventually.
What a program.
It is a great program, Michael. I had the pleasure of visiting the school a few years ago, and I brought a friend with me, Magic Johnson. And I'm telling you, Magic is somebody who has used his skills in basketball to be uber successful in business. So when these young people met Magic and he spent some time with them, was really quite memorable. And it is graduation day at the school. Do you know that 90% of the students in the program have been accepted into college?
Wow.
90%. And we congratulate all the graduates. And if you want to get some of their clothes, their line launches next month.
Just
Congratulations.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, like I said, I always love to see kids, and I'm gonna be biased. So I love to see kids of color. I always love to see kids of color succeed. I love to see kids of color, excel, because there is so much talent. Whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's art, whether it's 100 different things. I always love to see kids of color excel. I am completely unapologetic about that. If you don't like that, well, you probably don't like me anyway, but that's okay. That being said, that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to Always Press Record TV. Why? Because How the Frack shows up on that particular network. You can check them out on the Roku channel, or on Amazon Fire TV, APR TV, along with other shows out there. Definitely give it a shot. You will not be disappointed. Also, blurredstation.com, guys. We talked about this for almost going on 2 years. Again, a place for our own entertainment, our own content. Most importantly, our dollars should be going to. $10.99 a month to stream Blurred Station. Definitely check it out at blurredstation.com. Also, Run for Office. I've talked about this website many times as well. I talked about how the Crazies did it, how Moms for Liberty did it. Well, they started in sites like this. Simply put, if you feel the call to run for office, whether it's locally or nationally, definitely put in your address. And from there begins the process of how you can get on the ballot locally and then hopefully be able to run. And like I said before, it is getting to a point, guys, where we need to have more people active, where we need to have more people in the mix, because if we do nothing, nothing changes. That's just being honest. Especially more progressives and liberals, those who want to do more, not just stick to the status quo. I'm talking, we don't need modern or moderates. We need progressives. We need people that make changes for the now, because again, we will definitely be appreciative of that, and we will thrive because of that. That's how other countries did it. But as for the show, guys, How the Frack We Got Here can be found on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all the wonderful places at How the Frack We Got Here all together. Like, share, and subscribe, because much like NPR, folks, we cannot do this without your support. Thank you guys for letting people know about the show. Thanks for commenting on it. And like I said, I have people go up and say, oh, I see your show on YouTube all the time. Thank you. Let people know about it, because the more people that get to do this, the more I get to do this. And trust me, this is definitely one of my favorite things to do, is to inform the right way, because misinformation can definitely happen out there. Also, my own personal socials, Black_Spartan615. You can definitely follow me there. Just don't make it weird. I don't have to block anybody. And yes, the diddler, I didn't want to talk about that. I'm just going to be honest. I had no basis in talking about the diddler, because, again, we have bigger fish to fry than basically one man's issues that should have been handled by a court. I got him. I mean, personal wise on it. Again, he got ruled. He got due process. The one thing we'll say about the diddler is he got due process. Although I find it interesting that a man that basically attacked a woman on camera for the world to see is still somehow not sitting in jail because of that. But like I said, I digress. Didn't want to cover it because it's not the news that you need. That's pretty much just for the ratchet sites. But again, I digress. That being said, guys, last thing I'll say about How the Frack Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors. Maybe one day, electing our first black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, How the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please don't doom scroll. Protect your peace. Check on your friends. Do something that makes you happy. And at the same doggone time, smile. It's not over yet. Have a good 4th if you celebrate it. For the rest of us, go enjoy yourselves. Hopefully not out in the sun. If you go out in the sun, hydrate. The sun's trying to kill us. Peace.